Greetings, everybody. Drew here with another episode of McMonstermaker's Answers, and today we are going to be doing a literary version. When you're writing characters like Kala or Aileen, do you feel like you're uncovering real people, or do you feel like you're inventing them as you go? So, yeah, there is no invention. I'm definitely excavating a person, a character that is alive elsewhere in a whole different, plane of existence. I know that sounds weird. I get that. I understand that, but it's very, very real. Stephen King, in his book on writing, he said something that always resonated. I never forgot about it. He said that when he writes, it's like excavating. And I completely understood what he meant, but I take it in a different direction as far as like explaining my process. So what I do is I consider myself like either a stenographer or a stenographer that is also like a war journalist. We're placed on the ground with a conflict, and it's our job to report what we are observing. And that becomes a story. Now, the one thing that we don't do, that I personally don't do as a writer, I guess I'm what you would call a pantser. And that's someone who kind of just lets it unfurl organically as you are observing it. I do not treat the world that I am writing or the characters that I am writing as products or avatars or proxies for, living people or situations. I am very much of the philosophy that, writing what you know is not what I do. Now, I will write what I don't know heavily researched, but what I mean is I don't ever try to observe and report and then shoehorn in something that I'm familiar with in the writing process. It is all an organic excavation of a world that existed long before, I did, from the writer's perspective. So, hope that answers that question. Definitely, they are not invented. There was a second part to the question, which is, what's that moment like when a character suddenly decides something you didn't plan? That happens like every time you write. So that's the point. There is never a moment where you should have them do something that you decide that they need to do. Now, obviously, from a writing perspective, there's like that moment when you have an idea that you would like to see through to completion. But what I look at when I see that, I think of it as like it's almost like a premonition, in the sense that it's something that you can see in a flash. And that small flash is the impetus or the raison d'etre to continue to explore what it is that you just saw a snippet of. It's like having deja vu and then seeing that deja vu through to completion. And a lot of times, much like with actual deja vu, you misremember or get things wrong. And in those moments, I guess that's what you could consider something surprising that a character might do, because you don't remember in that moment where you were thinking about it, you don't remember them doing that, and then they go off and they do something different. But never is there really a moment where, okay, I want you to go from A to B exactly the way that I say it or see it. None of that. That's, I feel, disingenuous from a writing standpoint. Because the whole idea of writing, right, is people read books so that they can live vicariously through the characters. You can't actually do that if the characters themselves are not allowed to live their lives. And so if you're telling them what to do all the time, you're a bad parent. What happens when a parent, tightens their grip? Kids rebel. And, it's even arrogant to call them kids. They are people that you're privileged to report on, essentially. So, hope that explains that. The Leven universe spans generations. Kala, Vela, Calvin, Aileen. Which character surprised you the most emotionally when you realized what their future actually held? Oh boy. So, I would have to say, I was very disappointed with how Calvin Shepard turned out. Especially, given his background and his family history, I really did not respect, what he did. You know, the way he treated his family, the way he treated his daughter, the way they treated his elders, his job path. Yeah, that one I did not enjoy moments spent with him at all. If you could sit down inside your own world for 1 hour, Evans Corp, nowhere in sight, what place would you visit, and which character would you want to talk to off the record? Oh boy. That would be a tie between Vadim Volkov and Reef Gore. So, on the one hand, I think hanging out with Reef Gore would be extremely boring in the sense that he's not much of a talker. And I would probably do something that would offend him, and then he would kill me. I mean, I'd like to think he wouldn't, but I'm a realist. Vadim, on the other hand, I could easily sit in his cabin and drink beer and then go out by the fire and fish for days and days and days and just listen to him talk about his exploits over the last century, and probably not lose an ounce of enjoyment from that situation. So I would say Vadim is the person that I would love to hang out with, and Reef Gore is the person that I wouldn't mind having by my side, I guess, if you know, something terrible went down. But yeah, those are my choices, I guess. Your villains, especially Evans Corp, feel frightening because they're believable. When you write them, what real-world anxieties or frustrations do you channel into their creation? So there is no preconceived agenda as far as, you know, how I want these entities to be perceived, whether they're good, bad, whatever. I don't write that way. I don't have like a proxy in this life that I want to bash or make people aware of or have an opinion on. You know, what I mean is, you know, there is no like XYZ company here is doing terrible things, so I'm going to make Evans Corp like them. Evans Corp is its own entity in this world, and I am just observing and reporting on the terrible, nefarious things that they do. And it seems believable to people, I would imagine, because that's just the way that some of these businesses are. It has nothing to do with trying to find, you know, a doppelganger to compare them to. It's just that sometimes the larger businesses, they really are as nefarious as this one, and that's sad, but that's just reality no matter what plane of existence you're on, I guess. When you're writing without plotting, what's the scariest moment, an unexpected twist you discover, or the point where a character takes you somewhere you didn't think you were ready to explore? So that is hard to say, because there is no scary moment, because everything is an unexpected twist that you're supposed to discover. That's the whole point of the endeavor to write, you know, these stories, right? I never, the day that I write and I know exactly what's going to happen is the day that I put my people that I write in shackles, and that is not good for anybody, for the reader, for them, or for me. You know, because who would want to cultivate that kind of attitude? I feel like that's a very controlling nature that is not healthy, in my opinion. And mind you, there are plenty of people who plot and outline, and maybe they hear that and they think it's like silly or crazy. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just saying that's my take on it. The Shepherd family line is full of trauma, resilience, power, and mutation. Which moment in the timeline from the Leaving the Noodle do you feel defines the heart of this entire generational saga? There is no moment. The whole journey from the beginning to where we are 100 years in the future and then the latest story is the point. It's just being on this journey with them is enough for me to define the heart of what it is. It's about family. It's about you know, fighting for what is right to fight for. Mind you, these are all things that are like universal truths, right? You know, if you're a decent human being, you should do what you can to help, you know, make the world a better place. If you have family, you should love them and treat them the way that you would want to be treated. These are all things, they're not revelations, and they're certainly not things that I feel like, I write to try to teach people to do these things. It's just the truth of the reality of the world that I'm excavating. I will say I have had people ask me many times, what these books are about, or what they mean, or what I think they mean, etc. And I never know how to answer that, because there is no right or wrong answer. But what I can say is, going through them again, I do notice that for myself, I notice one of the messages that I see on the page, for me personally, is just that nothing is black and white. And I think that is probably what I take away from the books, is that nothing is black and white. Sometimes good people can do bad things. Sometimes terrible people can do decent things. Sometimes situations are not so simple to justify, what's happening. Sometimes it's too simple. It's so as far as this question is related, and as far as that question that has always been asked of me, that is my answer. Nothing is black and white, and beyond that, I would just love for whoever reads my books to be able to find something else that they might, be able to take away from them. If one of your characters could see the author controlling their fate, who do you think would confront you, and what do you think they'd accuse you of? Well, one, that would never happen. But two, if I died and somebody took over my mantle and they didn't have the same principles that I do when it comes to, uncovering these worlds, if they would try to, take the reins and be a dictatorial turd to my characters, I would say Billy Kojimatsuo would be the first one to speak up. And if she could, she would jump off the page and strangle that person because they were infringing on her freedoms and the freedoms of the people that she loved. She's a scrappy little one, so I would say she would be the first one to put the smack down, for sure. Many readers feel your books blend horror with hope. All right. Do you consciously balance that, or does the hope show up unexpectedly as you pants your way through the story? As I pants my way through the story. That's a funny way of putting it. There is no balance. Like I said a million times now, and I feel like this video series, or this particular one, is gonna get a lot of people raising their eyebrows, and I'm sorry for that. But I don't know any other way to describe writing than how I'm doing it. I wish that I could be more like, what you gotta do is you gotta write, 20 pages for this many acts, or this many. That's not. If you care about the craft of writing, all of that stuff will take care of itself as you're uncovering the world. I don't do the paint by numbers thing. I'm sorry. I'm just saying in advance, because a lot of my questions are making me seem like I'm a crazy person. Stephen King did say that writing is like controlled schizophrenia, and I completely get it, because I am not my characters and they are not me or anybody I know. So yeah. But to answer your question, there is no intentional hope being peppered in. It just happens as happenstance, whatever's happening in that scene at that given moment. I guess they were lucky that there was a reason to be hopeful. I don't know. The Leven and their biology are very distinct. When you write their abilities, aging, and psychology, do you think of them as metaphors for something human, or do you treat them as something entirely alien? So they are entirely alien. There are no metaphors. I don't have any sort of subterranean, subcutaneous, subdermal, sub-anything that I am trying to imbue into the narrative or the story. I just write what I see, and hopefully people will enjoy it. There is no ulterior message. There is no... I'm sorry, I don't mean to seem like, but I mean, a lot of these questions are very much, they're all they're all tailored for the exact opposite type of writer that I am. So if I were an outliner or a plotter, I'm sure I could answer all of these much, much more entertainingly or effectively for you guys. But unfortunately, I was given questions that were not, I don't resonate with a lot of them, and I'm sorry for that. I'm just reading them as I go. So, yes, to answer your question, it is Alien, because they are aliens in an alien world. Imagine someone finishes Noodle or Texoma and closes the book. What's the one feeling you hope lingers in their chest long after the story ends? I just want them to be satisfied with the time that they spent in that world. That's all I want. That's all I want them to take away from reading this. So I would say that's the one thing I hope lingered. It would be contentment, satisfaction, I guess. That's about it. All right. Well, that is 10 questions for the literary edition of McMonstermaker's Answers. I apologize if it's like too abstract or too, out there for some of you. But that's just the way that some writers' brains work. So, yeah, I look forward to another one in the future, but maybe one that's like maybe geared more towards talking about the characters as opposed to like the methodologies and things like that. Yeah. Anyhow, hope you're all doing well, and stay tuned for the next segment of McMonstermaker's Answers, where we will go back to answering the questions about monster making. Bye-bye.